You're listening to Boomers Today with your host, Frank Sampson.
Well, welcome to Boomers Today. I'm your host, Frank Sampson. And of course, each week we bring you important, useful information on issues facing baby boomers, which I'm smack in the middle of, their parents, and other loved ones. And of course, we have another great show for you this week. And I really want to thank everybody for all their support. We don't do any advertising or anything. It's just through organically our podcast has grown. It's because of all of you. Many of you, of course, have probably listened to the podcast and shared it with friends and family, and I really appreciate that. And there's a lot of ways to listen. Some of you just go to our website, boomerstodayradio.com, but I would say the majority of you are listening right on a podcast, maybe on our free app, the Boomers Today app, which you can get on your iPhone or Android phone. Certainly Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all different ways to listen to it. So again, thank you so much. And today is going to be another great show. We have with us Wendy Boglioli, who has been a featured speaker, long-term care expert, healthy aging advocate, and an Olympic gold medalist. We'll learn more about that. Wendy brings professional versatility and captivating insight to audiences and clients across the country. Wendy's message encourages everyone to take a holistic approach to their financial and physical outlook, while her riveting personal story resonates and persuades. Wendy, thank you so much for joining us on Boomers Today. I really appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I have to say, I've never had an Olympic gold medalist on our show, so this is a first. So first of all, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story, which I know you're going to share. But I'm really curious. How do you go from Olympic gold medalist to your role as becoming really kind of a long-term care expert and getting into long-term financial planning? Tell us that story.
Yeah, being a boomer, and I'm 66 years old now. I really came out of the Olympics as this athlete who had this gold medal and a bronze medal around my neck going, what am I going to do now? My whole life at that age, and I was 21, and my husband and I, we were married just 10 months going into Montreal, was all about swimming. And I had to find something, and I didn't know what that was going to be. I knew we were going to have a family. I knew we were going to do coaching. But I didn't really look at kind of a long career of what am I really going to do beyond this. My father, honestly, is the reason that I am in this industry. I came out of Montreal, and my father had been very sick. And my mom and my dad were my Olympic coaches from the time I was 5 years old until I was 18 years old. I grew up in Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin, a little town of 600 people. I'm one of 7 children. There's 5 girls and 2 boys. I'm the second youngest of that whole group. My mother was a competitive swimmer. God, she was way ahead of her time. I mean, she played in that league of their own. She played for the Cardinals. She was a pitcher, traveled all over the country. And so she was very athletic, big German woman, very athletic, great athlete, really, again, ahead of her time. My father, World War II vet, tank driver, went through all of that. They decided to settle in this little town in Wisconsin and raise all of us kids. Well, my mother being the athlete, really, and being in this area of thousands of lakes, Frank, thousands of lakes everywhere. She wanted us all to learn how to swim. So we all learned at a very, very young age. And my mother always said she could tell my younger sister and I just had something special. And it wasn't BS that she was giving us. My mother was always right on it. She just meant what she said. You just knew it. And I just gravitated toward that. I loved swimming. I loved being in the water. I loved training and what they had available to them. And I say it all the time, God, opportunities are born, like they're found. And my parents found it. We lived in this town with this hotel pool that both my mom and dad, my mother lifeguarded there. My dad was a mechanical engineer there. We had a 17-yard long pool at that hotel. And honestly, that's where they found opportunity for my younger sister and I. Now, anyone that knows about competitive swimming even a little bit, 25 yards or 25 meters is what always people have trained in for 100 years, going back to the very first Olympics. This was a 17-yard long pool that took 8 laps for me to do an actual, what my actual race would be. So a lot of flip turns. But anyway, that's how I trained. My father, being this mechanical engineer, decided that, that pool, as Wendy's getting bigger, she can't be just doing all of these little laps. She's got to have some consistency in terms of not stopping. So he designed this harness that went around my waist, went up to the top of the ceiling of this indoor hotel pool, over to the side, down the side, if you can imagine this, with a weight stack. And he had 50 pounds, 25 pounds, 10 and 5 pounds. And when I would be strapped to this, you're literally in the water, but you're not going anywhere. But as soon as I started getting stronger and making it to the other side of the pool, he would just put another plate of weight on. And that is how I trained. My father was so ingenious in that way. As I got older, my father and mom trained me in a lake a mile from our home, made lane lines, did a starting block. I mean, I had these just Midwestern parents who just became these ordinary and extraordinary parents and coaches. And we went to all these little swimming meets. Our little swimming team had about 10 people. We were all from town. My father had, because of the war in part, and because he was a smoker, developed a heart and lung disease. And he always had trouble breathing. As long as I knew my father, that was an issue. Well, in his 50s, he developed it at a greater length, and certainly in his early 60s. So when I went to Montreal, my father was on oxygen in Montreal. We made that trip, saw me win my Olympic gold medal. I stood on that block, honestly, on that podium, had that Olympic gold medal put around my neck, and little did I know that within just a few short years, my dad would be dead at the age of 65.
Oh, wow.
I came out of that, here's my dad who trained me to the meter of an Olympic gold medal, and my mother as well, and they didn't plan for the kind of care he would need. And I never understood that, Frank. I was always, how can that be? I'm one of 7 kids. We're all dispersed throughout the country. We're married. Everyone's having their kids. No one lived near my mom and dad. And the toll that I saw that it took on my mother, financially, physically, mentally, spiritually, because she cared for him all by herself for almost 5 years until she could no longer do it. And she had put him in a VA hospital back then, which is now almost 40 years ago when my father passed away. Right. I just saw what it did to her and to us as a family. It was, it had such a profound effect on me. And it really wasn't until I had kids of my own and anyone who's had kids of their own, I think intrinsically we understand that our kids aren't supposed to take care of us. Like, we are the caregivers of our children, and you grow and raise them to go out and do and have their lives. And once we had our kids, I went, I will never, ever do to my kids what my mother and all of us kids have tried to scramble to help my dad with. I had a great friend at GE, General Electric, who had a VP position there in heading the long-term care division of GE. And he knew my story and he knew about my dad. And he said to me one day, and this is back in the early 90s, Wendy, you'd be great as a long-term care agent. Well, I still had young kids at home, and I went, I don't know. And he goes, no, Wendy, you have empathy. You've been there, your experience. I think you should try this as a career. And honestly, I jumped in and never, ever looked back. I've been as proud and as happy to be a part of that long-term care solution for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that I speak to over my 25 years in this industry.
That's a fantastic story. So that was 76, right? That you were in the
Yes.
Olympics, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and maybe you could share with people if they wanted to see your story. I know there's a great,
Oh,
video.
yes.
Where could they go for that video?
You can go on YouTube, Amazon also. It's called The Last Gold. NBC Sports, 5 years ago, wanted to put together, along with United States Swimming, the history of swimming at a great loss of U.S. swimming. So taking you back in 1976, because Frank, you're much younger than me, in 76,
Yeah, right.
we go into Montreal. And
I got you beat, Wendy. I got you beat.
You do?
Yeah, I got you beat. Yeah.
But 76 Montreal was so unique because as United States women swimmers, we had gone into every single Olympic game since 1952, by the way, winning almost every single Olympic gold medal. We had never been shut out. But the year before 1976, the East German women had all of the sudden, Frank, 1972, they had one silver medal and a silver medal in a relay. In 72, all of a sudden in 75, they're all setting world records. And we're all going, how is that even possible? And so going into 76, we knew that they were going to be strong. They had world records, not understanding really what it was about. How could they be training any greater, better than here in the US, who has the best of everything, right? We go into Montreal, and the very first day in Montreal, I saw America's best in the 100 freestyle. Shirley Babashoff, Kim Payton, Jill Sturkle, before our eyes, take 4th, 5th, and 7th place. And they were all world record holders at one time. Every single day was like that. So United States Swimming took a beating that year. And the only gold medal that we won was on that final day against the East Germans in the 4x100 freestyle relay. It's called, entitled, through United States Swimming and actually Olympic history, the greatest Olympic story that was never told. Yeah. And it goes into how that was done and the whole dynamics of both the East Germans, the Russian, the Eastern Bloc countries, and the United States, of what we went through. It's a great film. It was in theaters in 76. And again, you can get it on YouTube or Amazon. I would encourage, especially our age group.
I would put it right up there with the,
the hockey.
The hockey beating the Russians. Yeah, I put it right up.
Now, Jim Craig and we do have a discrepancy on that thought, because he says, I said, but it's still Miracle on Water. Yours was frozen, ours was liquid.
Right. So good. So, you know what? I think it would be helpful if you could share with our listeners, maybe just to explain when somebody says long-term financial planning, what is meant by that?
Every person, and I equate it back to swimming in a lot of ways, and in sports in a lot of ways, because sports is always changing. Plans are always different. Every athlete is very different. And then when it comes to long-term care financial planning, families are different. And everyone, I believe, this is me, should have a long-term care plan. What does that mean? Do you either want to, there's only 4 ways to pay for care, which is all about financial planning for long-term care. First of all, long-term care, a lot of people think it's about sitting in a nursing home. Long-term care is this: it's the inability to live independent of another person for 90 days or more. Anything shorter than that is a short-term care situation. Could be a hospital situation. It's just short term. So long-term care is a very different perspective. It also means that over those 90 days, you're going to need help in eating, bathing, dressing, continence, moving from a bed to a chair, or grooming. When you need help in 2 of those 6 for 90 days or more, that's a long-term care situation. And the question becomes, in every family, how do we pay for it? And there's only 4 ways to pay. Number 1, you're going to pay out of your pocket or family. And let's be clear, and certainly with baby boomers, we understand families, because we've all done it for our own loved ones. Family is the backbone of caregiving in this country. And today, still about $370 billion, that's with a B, $1 billion is spent every single year on this free caregiving, equated to free caregiving, provided by families. 70% of all caregiving in this country is by women. So family is kind of that first step. That's you and your family paying for care. The second way to pay is what a lot of people do is they go, God, I think Medicare is going to pay for it. And so they think of that, or Medicaid. Medicare is that short term, right? And Medicaid is when you are indigent and poor and the government steps in and you literally have to be in a facility, and in a facility or area in which they choose. And for some people that is okay. But most people want to be able to have choice. The third way to pay, besides family or maybe Medicaid, is self-insure. Now you're talking about using your own money. Then you go into savings. I see it all the time in my business, which means then, okay, if I've gone through savings and my cash, now I have to go into my portfolio. And when you do that, there's tax consequences to that. I look back when my dad needed care, we looked at nursing homes, which cost $18 a day 36 years ago in a nursing home. And we couldn't afford it, Frank. My mother went into care for 5 years, and she passed away 5 years ago of Alzheimer's. Her cost at that time, 5 years ago, was $286 a day in a facility. So when you go and start liquidating your money, you're going to have tax consequences. And any boomer who's working with a financial advisor, a financial planner, I hope has had this conversation with you, how to pay. So that's the third way to pay. The fourth way is insurance. And insurance is not for everybody. I think the exciting thing on insurance fronts today, and like in anything, like in swimming, there are great swimmers and then there's good swimmers. There are great companies that understand this, that have been in this industry for a very long time. And then there are companies that have just come in. So always do your homework on the companies that you look at. I think insurance is a great way, because what it does is it creates guarantees. It creates tax-free, a high return fund for potential of these long-term care costs. Everybody has a different solution. My point to every single person that I speak with, and I've been doing it again 25 years, is whatever decision that you make, and it might be a combination of those four, put it in writing, because if it's not put in writing, you leave enormous decisions for families to make.
Right. That's thank you for explaining that. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to take a real quick break just to recognize our sponsor. We're going to come back. People will be able to learn how they could get a hold of you. And then I want to address the fact is it too late to plan? All right. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about that. Okay. All right, great. So I want to remind everybody that today's show is sponsored by Senior Care Authority, an elder care consulting organization that has a national network of professionally trained and experienced local advisors to assist families in determining the right path for your loved ones. They'll discuss various long-term care options, whether it's in-home care, assisted living, memory care, nursing care, or if you just need an advocate to get advice from. A local Senior Care Authority advisor can help you now. So for a free 30-minute consultation with an advisor in your area, contact Senior Care Authority at 888-809-1231, or you could go directly to their website at www.seniorcareauthority.com, and you can find an advisor in your area. We're back with Wendy Boglioli, who is a long-term care expert and Olympic gold medalist in the 1976 Olympics. So Wendy, I thought we just, I don't want to run out of time and then forget to ask you, if people wanted to get a hold of you and learn more, how would they do that?
I work through my career through an agency, and happens to be a very good friend of mine, Roe Morrison. So it's Roe Morrison at R, M as in Mary, A as in Apple.com. She books my events, but we're very particular. I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. I love the audiences that I speak with, the long-term care financial planning. I work with a lot of financial firms out there and a lot of companies. I have never really put myself with a particular company because my message, Frank, is all about planning. And at the heart of it all is finding solutions that are right for a family. And only families can work together on that. So I've always felt as long as people understand what long-term care is, what are the options that they have, and then get a plan in place. There are many great companies out there that you can work with, both financial firms as well as long-term care companies.
Right. You have a Facebook page, right? Is that right?
I do not.
Oh, you don't?
You know,
okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
over the years, I did. Over the years, I've really gotten away from that, and maybe I'm just. This sounds bad. I apologize. Maybe I've just been at this point in my life where I get calls to do it. I get referrals to do it. So I've never had to really advertise.
Okay, good for you. Good for you. So, I mentioned before break, somebody who could be listening to this that maybe, said, "Oh, I'm not." I'll be fine. If something happens, my kids will take care of me, just like you said before early on. And they really haven't planned, and they're listening to this and they're going, wow, I better get my act together here. Is it ever too late to start planning?
No. When it comes to long-term care, no. Now, if you wanted to go the insurance route, obviously there are health issues that can keep you away from an insurance policy.
We're talking long-term care insurance as well.
Yes, yeah. But I think the bigger point is always to have the conversation, because I've sat across far too many kitchen tables and conferences and et cetera, where people will say to me, hey, Sally's going to take care of me. She's my youngest daughter. I always encourage people to have the conversation with their family, because maybe Sally can't really take care of you, and understanding what that means. But in terms of planning, absolutely, there's an opportunity for families to be able to plan for that. And I don't believe it's too late. Hey, I was 21 years old when I made the Olympic team. Back then, that I was called the old lady. She's well past her prime. She'll never make an Olympic team. She's married. I was the first married swimmer to make an Olympic team. And so to me, that has never been an issue. I think always that conversation is the most important thing that families can have together.
That's great. Great advice. So I know you're obviously you're very passionate. You could tell what you do. And so what excites you the most about the changes over the years regarding long-term care financial planning? And we unfortunately have just a few minutes left, but maybe you could wrap it up with that one.
I think consumers, I think everyone that's listening on this call and all of us out there, what excites me about the industry is we are, and this time in our life, honestly, is long-term care to me, Frank, has never been about dying. Long-term care planning is about helping you live. I've always taken it from the positive. What does our future of living look like, and what can we do about it? What excites me with the industry itself particular is policies have changed. I think they've listened to consumers at great length, and we are not our parents. Boomers are very smart. We are very particular what we want, whether it's home care, in-home care, in a facility, whatever it is. And I think your organization of Senior Care Authority has done a phenomenal job in getting that information out to help all of us.
I appreciate that. That's very, very nice of you to say. Any advice on where somebody should start with this? Like they're all right, where do I begin? There's just so much to know. You were talking about the 90 days and which Medicare kind of brought, they're the ones that kind of developed that whole 90 days, short-term versus long-term. But where do I begin? Who do I start? Who do I talk with first?
I think to me, and this is my personal opinion, anyone listening that has a financial planner, a financial professional, that's the first place to start. And if that financial planner that you've had for all these years has not talked to you about long-term care, you need to ask them why. And many advisors will say, you have enough money, don't worry about it. It's not their decision to make. It's your decision to make. An agent, there are great, great companies that have extraordinary long-term care specialists out there. And that's just a matter of going through Senior Care Authority. You can get on the Medicare website. You can go to AARP, which we are all members of, right. And find great information on where to go and who I can talk to, because there is a lot to weed through. But I'm telling you, this is not splitting the atom. We do not need to make this complicated. And I find people get caught in the weeds far too much. Here's what I say with whatever, if you decide to go the insurance route and you've had help with an agent or you're with a financial firm or however you're doing this, you're going to need somebody to help you through this, certainly, and guide you through it, because that's going to be your coach. Know what you want, get what you pay for, and make sure it covers everything that you want. And then you've got something to look at. No different than sports. Great.
Wendy, what an honor it was to have you on Boomers Today. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody out there for joining us on Boomers Today. Please be safe. And we'll talk to everybody next week. Thank you all.
You've been listening to Boomers Today with Frank Sampson. To learn more about today's show, visit boomerstodayradio.com and join us next time for another edition of Boomers Today.